Do you support Donald Trump?
I support the Republican Party. I don't think that, narrowing it down as supporting an individual versus another individual is the right way to look at it because this isn't a sports team. But yeah, I'm a registered Republican. I voted for him and I would vote for him again. And if I could go back in time, I would do so as well.
Okay, why so?
Um, well, first off, like I said, I really dislike the rhetoric of um, blue versus red. That's really something that, for me, causes me a lot of pain because I think that that's just not the way that we should be looking at politics. Now, when it comes to politics, I think that you have to vote for the things that matter to you specifically, right? So I find it really difficult to believe that on either side you would completely or blindly agree 100% on the policies of either one of the parties because then you're kind of just like, following what everybody else is doing. And I think that that's also a mistake. And that's something that on the red side, on the Republican side, we get extremely, extremely wrong. I think people just kind of blindly vote for Trump and they just, whatever they say, they watch their news cycle and they say, you know what, that's what I'm going to vote for. But for me specifically, and this is how I, talk to my family members, some of them are extremely red and they're just very ignorant and they just say, yeah, I'm going to vote for whatever, he says. I see it as a couple of things. I want to focus on like one
Why
thing
do
or
you
one.
support Donald Trump?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. So I want to focus on like one or two things that are important to me personally, right? And to me, that's my financial well-being, my financial economic security, my family's economic security, my business's economic security, and just overall, like I'm a capitalist. That's what's important to me, and that's where I weigh my vote weighs heaviest when it comes to picking a side. So for Trump, and then when it comes specifically to like economics and the markets, I think that his policies have, they're going to ignite like a wealth boom. I think that the S&P right now is soaring. We're up like 67%. If you compare it to like previous years, it's everyone thought that, with the tariffs, it took a little bit of a dip, but after then it's been on a generational tear. If we talk about, I think that what his view on the economy as a whole is also, going in the right direction. I think that with inflation right now, I do think that we need to cut the interest rates even more. I'm personally divested out of the U.S. dollar, even though it's been taking a hit. Gold right now is soaring, which is essentially a hedge for when inflation hits. And yeah, I think that for me personally, I feel secure about where the country is moving. Oh, and then the most important part for me
Can
is
I
the
can I
fact.
address any of these?
Yeah, just let me just finish saying my last point right now. And I, for one, think that he is making himself kind of like or wanting to, like, he's a showman. He wants to position himself as whatever he wants to position himself as. And I think one of the things that he really wants to position himself as is the kind of like leader of AI. Or he wants America to be the leader of AI. And well, let's be honest, the biggest AI companies are American. And I mean, you saw it at the White House dinner the other night, like Sam Altman, Zuckerberg, you name it, where they were there, and they're doing their fiduciary duty to hold up for their shareholders, but they also know that this president wants to invest in tech, invest in AI, and help us be the leaders and kind of reclaim that view, that global view of the world as like the leaders in tech. And I don't know, I really can't disagree with any of that.
Okay, there's a few things here. His economic policy has not led to an economic boom. It's actually led to less real GDP growth since he's got in office. The jobs report was so bad that that specifically Trump fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics because he said it was politically biased information. And then the person that he put into office the next right after specifically indicated that there was even less jobs the next month after. There's like 7 to 10 times less jobs month on a month basis under the context of the Trump administration right now than there was a year ago under the Biden Harris administration. Secondly, right, you said that you want them to cut interest rates when we're seeing rising inflation because of the tariffs that Donald Trump has implemented. If you want them to continue to cut rates, wouldn't that put continual upward pressure on inflation? And it sounds like you are okay with that because you've quote unquote divested out of the U.S. dollar.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I just personally wouldn't hold any cash in my bank account anyway. So if I'm just sitting on cash, I'm going to either invest it into whatever market, whatever ETF, or into gold. So that's me personally. And I mean, look, yeah, it's not great that the U.S. dollar is obviously going down a little bit, but I still feel that with the movements that he's made, and he's shaking things up, and his administration is shaking things up. But overall, like I look at my portfolio, I feel like I'm higher than I've been ever than I was under the previous administration. I see companies that are continuing to grow, and I personally don't mind it. I mean, look, I think that one of the reasons that a lot of people on like a more ignorant level, they say, Trump, he's kind of getting rid of the liars or whatever. And I'm not going to sit here and act like Donald Trump isn't a grifter. Why is he selling gold shoes? Like that's kind of crazy to me. However, he's a little bit more upfront about it. Okay, TikTok is being sold to his
He's an
buddies.
upfront about it grifter. Do you
I
understand
mean,
how
look,
diabolically being a grifter means he's dishonestly doing something? You know that, right? Define
I
grifting.
understand, but look at the rest of the people that have
There's no
power. They're
hold up.
also doing insider trading. Like, look at Nancy Pelosi's stock
Define
portfolio.
grifter. Define grifter.
It's a scammer. It's a con artist. And like, if you didn't know that that's who Donald Trump is, then that's pretty crazy.
So if
But
they're a scammer and a con artist, that means that they're lying. So how could they be upfront about lying? Do you understand that's like contradictory, right?
I get what you're saying, and fine, we can do mental gymnastics about that. But what I'm trying to say is that on any government official, especially that when they're at high levels, they're going to be committing some sort of fraud. They're going to be doing
Really,
con and
what
like,
fraud did Kamala Harris or Joe Biden commit?
I mean, if you want to look at their stock portfolio, I'm sure that they've unjustly enriched themselves by a crazy amount. I'm sure that like,
Wait,
come on, I mean,
I'm sorry. Having a stock portfolio doesn't just necessarily mean that. But yeah, do you want to get rid of their ability to have and trade stocks? Most of the money that Biden made was specific off the books that he wrote. Okay.
look, I can't speak specifically to that, but I know that there's congressmen and senators that have made millions of dollars. I mean, the Speaker
Okay,
of the
that doesn't
House,
justify
Nancy
Donald.
Pelosi.
That doesn't justify Donald Trump doing that and dropping a meme coin and rug pulling it. That does not justify Donald Trump specifically saying now's a great time to buy. That does not justify specifically Donald Trump engaging in said market manipulation. That's ridiculous.
So simply because he's more outward towards it, it makes it wrong. When people do it in the shadows, it makes it okay just because we don't know about it.
No, it's not good in either circumstance. I believe that specifically they shouldn't be allowed to buy stocks outside of like just typical index funds.
I agree. So as a capitalist myself, the fact that this happens in the shadows, on the left, on the right, either way, it's not like if Trump is just doing this now, he's just being a little bit more like, like he doesn't give a shit. He's out here. He's like, yeah, no, I'm going to sell TikTok to my buddies. I'm going to get rich off of this. But it kind of also gives people that are paying attention. Like if I'm paying attention to the stocks, if I'm paying attention to the markets, I'm like, okay, well, maybe then I should probably buy this. And so it's not really insider anymore. It's kind of like letting everybody know. And it's a shift in the tide. It's a shift in the way that the global economy works. It's a shift in the way that the president speaks to his people. But if I can actually educate myself and make money off of it, then for me, because remember, I'm looking at this from my perspective, because like as opposed to like what Democrats do that just virtue signal and get hurt by every little single thing, and
Oh,
this
you
hurts
just
me. And
don't.
this
So you
hurts me.
just
And this
don't care about other people.
I mean, it's not that I don't care about other people, but if I would stay here and virtue signal that every little thing affects me and every little thing hurts me, then it would be really
Wait,
difficult for me to
we're
like
not
live my
virtue
life.
signaling by saying that we care about other people. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to be fine either way under either president. That's the level of privilege that I have, right? And that's specifically why I specifically say I should advocate for other people. I'm going to be fine regardless. Why the hell would you not take into account what's going to affect other people? Do you not care about the society you're going to leave for your children? That your friends are going to have to live in, that your family is going to have to live in. Obviously, you want a society that is equitable for everyone because that includes your future children, your grandchildren, the children that come after them, right? And inevitably, at some point, right, it is the case that, like, even if you build some level of generational wealth, that it equalizes out at a certain point.
No, I
That's how it
agree.
works.
And look, listen, I agree with you entirely, right? I'm not sitting here that I'm just like the selfish person that's just like sitting in my bank counting my nickels. The truth is that there's only a certain amount of bandwidth that I have. I don't work in politics. I have a job. I have a family. I have things to do on my day-to-day basis. I can't be consumed by the media all day long and like the news stories, because I think Trump is also really great at creating smoke mirrors to distract people from what's going on. And then whatever, like I said, I wholeheartedly admit it. He's a grifter, but if I can hold on to that grift and benefit myself from it and my
If you
family
can
from it
grift off
as
of
a
the grift,
capitalist,
then you like it. If you can grift off of the grift, then you like it. No, come on, you got to benefit. You have to think about other people. You have to think about how many people are negatively impacted because of this. Donald Trump's policies, his big beautiful bill, cuts 420,000 children off of free school lunch and breakfast on average every single month. Right, 2.5 million people off of access to their food stamps. Right, per month. Over 10 million people off their health insurance and adds $3.4 trillion to the debt. Trump's bills, right, in his first administration added over $4 trillion more debt-related spending comparative to the Biden-Harris administration in terms of what they signed into law.
Okay, so then if I look at the big beautiful bill and I see it from my specific perspective, and when I look at when my father dies, if I inherit whatever it is that I inherit, I can keep more of it. I should care more about like all the other stuff than what specifically affects me is what you're telling me. And I mean, look, that's totally understandable. Like some people
No,
say, look, I
I
can
think it's
take this.
interrelated. Unless you make over $400,000 a year, you're going to be benefiting more under a Kamala Harris administration.
Well, that's the thing. I can't say that I do, right? And that's not me trying to like
Okay.
say anything. It's just, and
So,
then it's
so
also
then, like
from the
specifically, then you would have the same level of tax cuts under under the Harris administration versus the Trump administration. Secondly, if you look at this, the stock portfolio is already booming under Biden. You understand that the S&P 500, if you want to look at all index funds, they were all doing all-time highs under Biden. The idea that's unique to Trump is ridiculous. And actually, under Trump in the beginning, remember it was declining, and people were like, "Oh, you know what? The stock market doesn't actually matter that much." We saw people actually arguing that right after the stock market was doing horrible and atrocious. But as soon as it's back to normal, right, they're just everyone forgets about that.
I mean, even prior to COVID, the stock market was absolutely ripping, and then obviously COVID happened, and then we remember what happened after there. I think that he um, and it's really weird to think that like the president and his rhetoric directly affects the stock market and improvement of the Mag Seven or all the 500 companies, but it does, right? He genuinely knows how to tell a story and how to say that he's great friends with all of these CEOs to make people confident because it's like it's not an indicator of what Trump says or does. It's an indicator of what the market feels, meaning of what consumer retail investors and big bank investors feel. And they obviously feel confident in this presidency because it keeps going
No,
up.
they feel less
So
confident because the economic trends are horrible. The jobs reports were dog shit, right? And it's indicative of the fact that his tariffs are gutting our economy, right? The real GDP growth is lower. There's higher unemployment. Unemployment's gone up.
I mean, look, there's when it comes to the
Inflation's trending
economy,
up.
when it comes to the economy of the country, I guess you can look at it in two different ways, right? On a macro sense, like the economy, which is like signal things such as like GDP, unemployment, things like that, and then there's the markets, right? Because that's the public markets are really what dictate this country's actual growth and its strength, and the private sector. And what I lean to like give more importance to is going to be those markets because that's where my money is. That's where I'm invested in. And over the long term, now if I feel that I have more disposable income because the president that's in office is making those companies one way or another rise or giving more consumer confidence. Retail investing is higher than ever, meaning normal people like you and I are putting more money into the market and getting more back. These things are growing. That's a really positive indicator for me to feel that I'm being taken care of under this administration. And you know, when it comes to social topics,
All of these things would happen either way under the Kamala Harris administration. And again, you're not talking about how many people are going to be harmed by the economic policy. You're only saying me, me, me. How does it benefit me, me, me?
well, that's also one of the reasons, like from a social perspective, because I'll be honest. I am a Christian. I did go to. I'm actually a Roman Catholic. I went to Catholic school from like pre-K to college. So that's also something that's like deeply ingrained in me. And one of the things that I felt that I was also kind of looked over when Kamala was running,
Kamala.
specifically. Okay, yeah, I apologize. Was that when I mean, Trump just understood how to market himself better and how to get the votes of the people that actually the votes that he needed, right?
You mean
Like
like
going
lie,
on,
like say that he's going to reduce
no, no, no,
prices when he knows that he can't? He's willing
no,
to
no, no.
lie.
Not even specific things that he was saying, just from like a purely marketing perspective about going on the right podcast, talking to the right people, and speaking to the right audience, which is you and I, right? Like we're probably somewhat contemporaries in age. You're probably maybe like 10 years younger than me, but nonetheless, like people in our age group and in our demographic, straight, young. I know you said you have a girlfriend, but maybe like single or dating males. They're going to be listening to those Joe Rogans. They're going to be listening to those Theo Vaughns, and that's where he was appearing. And he was actually speaking directly to us, right? And
Yeah,
even
so
if the
so
message was
so
bullshit or not,
there's no way that you genuinely are voting for Donald Trump just because he goes on Theo Vaughn and Joe Rogan. I'm sorry. If you're voting because of that, you're not informed enough to make these types of decisions. And yes, that is going to happen. And yes, we should have gone on those different types of platforms. But no, that's a ridiculous way to vote. That's not a good
dude,
reason for you to
dude, I've
that's not a good reason for you to vote that way.
I just started listening to you and Dean about like a week ago, and I really love what you guys are doing. Like, you guys are the shit. Keep it up. Like, this is so important for people to be doing. Um, However, I completely forgot what I was going to say, but
I mean, Theo Vaughn and Joe Rogan should have me on so I
oh
can
yeah.
explain to them how bad they f***ed up
Well,
by
one thousand
by
percent.
promoting Trump. I would love to be able to
I
explain
Well,
that to
they are
them.
already starting to go back on their like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
with the whole
acts of
DHS
support.
stuff.
I've heard.
Well, what I was saying is the reason why I brought up you and Dean and I started listening only like about a week and a half ago is the majority of people that I see that are coming on to debate with you are probably the people that got swayed because they were listening to Theo Vaughn. So you saying that they shouldn't be voting because it doesn't matter, right? Like,
I'm
people
not
are going
saying
to
that they
vote for what
shouldn't vote.
matters
I'm
for
saying that
them.
I'm not saying they shouldn't vote. I think people should vote. I think they should inform themselves before they vote.
I agree, but when you understand that the majority, I mean, I wish there could be like an actual number of what amount of people actually educate themselves and find like one or two specific topics that matter to them that they're going to vote behind, versus people that just vote because of something that they heard on the news, something that their
and
parents
and
told
I
them, or
want to
something
and I want to
like
change the
that.
culture around that, and that's uniquely what we're able to do now because of these different types of platforms that exist that historically has not existed, and that's exactly what I think we need to do to a greater extent. Because when people are just voting for Donald Trump because they think that the Democrats caused inflation with no evidence of that at all, it's ridiculous. I can't believe that such a huge percent of people specifically thought that. I was constantly talking to people and changing their minds on that every single day. They thought that Donald Trump was going to reduce the prices when he was literally advocating for policies to increase prices. And no matter how much you say it, no matter how much you explain it to people, a lot of people just didn't care. They didn't actually think about it. They believed Trump more than they believed me for some reason, even though I used reason and evidence. It's because he tries to simplify it in such a manner in which relates, right, which is ridiculous. And it's obviously absurd.
Well, I'll tell you what though, like I said, what you're doing is great, but Donald Trump actually, like, to my larger point was, I felt like he was speaking directly to me, where I felt like Kamala was speaking to everyone else but me, and I felt like if somebody in our demographic specifically, which I mean, let's be honest, that's probably one of the core groups that
She
voted
was
to
also
help
speaking to
Donald.
you. She was also speaking to you because,
Yeah, but
again,
not
she
not
was
where
going to
she
give you
can find
tax
me where I
breaks.
live.
Do you plan to have children?
Not, I don't know, maybe,
Do you plan on buying a house?
not really, no.
Okay. Well, do you specifically want a better labor market, like a job market, to be able to get a better job?
I'm a business owner, so again, like, not doesn't really apply to me.
Okay, you're a business owner. Do you want more people to be able to buy from your business?
Of course, obviously, yes.
So then you want to benefit other people so that they can buy from your business to a greater extent.
Well, I have a business to business company, so it's more than consumer like discretionary spending. It's more about, like, businesses need my service to run.
Okay,
But
businesses are able to consume more from your business, given that they make more money from consumers. So if you benefit society as a whole, it benefits the businesses that are buying from your business.
fair,
It increases their incentive to buy from you.
okay, fair. I mean, I'm not really sure what your point is there. I was more talking about specifically like the platforms that Donald Trump was speaking to, because I would love to keep on talking about like the financial and the capitalist perspective, which is kind of what leads my political affiliation more than anything. It really is going to be led by what I feel is going to provide me and my family economic security. That's what's going to be my main. Like I said, if I was sitting here and I'm going to vote entirely
Hey,
based off of,
it seems
but
like you're going to be okay either way. You're going to have economic security either way. It sounds like you're a businessman, and it sounds like you do fine in terms of that. And it is the case that you're going to be fine either way. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like Kamala Harris being in the position of political office is not going to take away from your economic security. So if you can provide economic security for a greater amount of people, and still maintain the economic security for yourself and your family, why wouldn't you do that?
that's a really fair question. And I guess that's where I was moving away from the conversation about like financials and going more into the, I don't want to say like social issues, because I know that can get really weird when we're talking about Trump, because I don't, again, I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm a Republican. And that's the reason I wanted to come on here and speak with you. It was, I want the younger people that do quote unquote support Trump to not do that and to more align with what party that they actually want to, vote for now and moving forward in the future. Because you don't vote for one person, you vote for an administration, you vote for a set of ideas and a set of values. And for me, that's the Republican Party. I don't really like Trump personally. Like, I would have preferred, honestly, anybody else, but I just personally wasn't going to
But
vote for Kamala during the
Kamala,
election time. Kamala, sorry.
you give him a greater ability to define what the Republican Party will look like by voting for him.
I do. And I at least knew Trump because, if and I know that the question that you have in the beginning of the discussion is, knowing what you know now, if you could go back in time, would you go ahead and vote for Trump again? And I mean, that's a really difficult question to answer because you really don't know. But I can just base my answer off of the information that I had when I was evaluating both candidates, and my evaluation relied heavily on, did I feel like I was being spoke to? Did I feel like I was cared about? Did I feel like my voice actually mattered? Because this is just going to be on a more like micro, like on a bigger level of what I feel kind of is happening with society right now. I feel like people like you and I can get overlooked a lot of the times. And I feel like we were, with the Me Too movement, a lot of things happened where, young men were just kind of looked down on. And now I feel like it's pretty commonplace for
What
us
the
to
Me
like
the
kind of
Me
be
Too
seen.
movement doesn't look down on men as a whole. It looks down on men who are who have women.
Agreed, but then that could also make just a regular man, that's maybe trying to date, look a lot more creepier than he maybe would have looked
No,
30 years ago. I mean, look, you see
creepy.
it happen
How do
all
you
the
look
time.
more creepy, dude? I'm a dude.
And I mean, so am I. And I have younger cousins that maybe don't have as much social acumen, that maybe don't have game, that maybe don't look good, that maybe don't have so much, economic security. So, I mean, it's the facts are the facts. Like, young men are not dating. Young men are getting addicted to nobody.
So why is loneliness in males happening to a greater extent? Because they're listening to red pillars. Because they're becoming incels and listening to groypers. Because they're becoming socially ostracized because they want to hold absurdly obscene views. That's why they're being socially ostracized. So until there could be some level of self-reflection and accountability in terms of changing the perspectives and trying to get people to realize where they're wrong in the very first place, to realize how harmful that ideology is for them and how it distances themselves from everyone, and it literally it pulls everyone apart, right? When they have such like horrible views, okay, obscene views. That's what's pulling them apart from everyone else. The reason why they feel so alone and the reason why they feel like they don't have community is because they've rejected that community, right? By specifically, having such obscene views.
I don't necessarily think that that's the cause. I think it's more the effect. I
I think
think
that's a
that
huge,
social
I don't think it's the
media,
only cause, but I think it's a huge, huge, huge factor.
I think that, man, I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that one, like wholeheartedly. I don't think that you find the Groyper community or you find the red pill and then you lock yourself up in a room and play Call of Duty for 12 hours and watch, and
it becomes a feedback loop, though, right? I
Yes,
mean,
it's a
these
feedback
things
loop.
don't just, I mean, you
yeah, you're
stumble
right.
on it, but what they do is that all young men or all men at some point in their life, many men, I'll say, right? They might be lonely at some point in their life, right? And they might feel like the world's ending. I know I did when I was younger, right? We felt the world's ending.
Yeah.
And we find these little nuggets, and and what the, uh, poison pill is it teaches us that we are not in control of our own destiny, but that other people are the cause for why we should like actually say that third of blame, right? That it's about women that we to blame. It's actually uh, their fault that they won't date me. When really it's about the men having bad beliefs, having bad attitudes, and frankly not knowing how to interact. Many of the young men simply don't know how to interact with women, right? I'm not like all that, like very sociable or anything, right? But in my later life, just simply talking to women, simply being out there and being personable, it's not that hard once you actually actually start to do it. And many men don't want to have to work for that. They think that it should be served up to them on a platter when you actually have to work for it and you have to show that you're in it for something more. And that's the danger of like these type of very toxic places, because what it does is it teaches men to not want to change and to be better, but instead to blame other people for problems that you created.
Yeah, like no one's gonna want to
But it's
be
like in
with
your
you.
mind.
No one's gonna want to be with you if you're a bad partner, right? if you aren't doing anything and if you feel entitled and you feel like everyone needs to do everything for you and you're not bringing anything to the table, who's going to want to be your partner, right?
I
Like
mean,
you,
look,
and oftentimes men feel entitled, especially to domestic labor, right? They feel entitled to not have to do that, to not have to bring anything to the table, especially when living with their partner. They do nothing domestically, right? And that then it does not feel equalized, especially when there are equalized salaries, especially, right? And equalized level of working. You know, women are also working to a greater extent in the context of domestic labor. It's called a double shift, that they're engaging specifically in the context of the labor force and then doing a double shift at the home in terms of doing significantly more domestic labor, because men feel entitled to not engaging in the domestic labor because that they like one like probably like didn't like weren't expected to do that through their whole life, so they specifically didn't learn it to the same extent, right? And two, specifically, right, they feel entitled to it because they feel like they like because society is normalized men not having to do these things, they feel like they don't have to do it, right? And then it
yeah,
reproduces them not wanting to put in the effort to actually go and do that, especially for their partner, even when they're asking, because it is the case that like they were socialized into the set of conditions of, oh, I don't have to do this, and oh, I'm entitled to this, and oh, it's too much effort for me to do, or oh, they're quote unquote better at than me at it, or something like that.